This caught a lot of people off guard earlier today. Rumors started to swirl. Reports started to come out. I think this all started on a message board. Was the first place that I was made aware. I'm not members of message boards, but somebody sent me a screenshot of a message board comment regarding former 5-star offensive tackle KADYN Proctor, who, of course, if anybody doesn't know who we're talking about, you're probably living in a hole as it relates to Iowa football. Here's a kid who 5-star recruit from Des Moines, ends up committing to Iowa, takes a bunch of other visits, ends up decommitting from Iowa a day before signing day during the 2020, that'd be the 2023 cycle. Then he goes to Bama, plays a full year as a starter at left tackle, which is really hard to do at any level, D1 level, but certainly in the SEC at Bama. And then what happens? Nick Saban retires. He re-enters the portal. And I was told from the get-go, before he even entered the portal, that he was coming to Iowa. He absolutely followed through with what we expected him to do. He travels to Iowa, commits basically on the spot, committed before he got there. And looked like everything was shipshape. He's got his good buddy Xavier Wampa there, former Southeast Polk standout himself. And now a couple months go by, and the reports this morning or this afternoon were that KADYN Proctor might be re-entering the transfer portal, and that just, again, put a lot of people in a state of panic and shock, and understandably so. I think Scott Docterman of The Athletic was the first to officially report it. I reached out to somebody in the KADYN Proctor circle, and this source told me, yes, KADYN is planning on re-entering the transfer portal. And that's all I got from my source. But then there were other reports circulating this afternoon that he is planning on heading back to Alabama. I don't really know what to say on this. I know people in the comments were like, hey, what's Corey? How angry is Corey going to be? I'm not angry. And I'll tell you what, I have been very forgiving to KADYN Proctor. Not that he owes me anything. Now, if you donated to the Swarm and you're upset because you think your money's going to be wasted, I get it. I get being mad. I totally understand it. All right. From my perspective, somebody who operates this show, someone who knows people in the KADYN Proctor circle, I'm not upset. I'm just kind of like, I'm done. I'm done worrying about where this 19-year-old kid goes. He has made 4 different decisions in the course of like a year and a half. He commits to Iowa, then he decommits and goes to Alabama. Then he enters the portal, goes to Iowa. Now he's going back to Alabama. At some point, like, I'm washing my hands. I'm not messing with the kid anymore. And Frank, I know you're not necessarily a Hawkeye football fan, but you understand college recruiting. You know where the transfer portal is. We don't know what happened to lead KADYN Proctor to this decision. Is somebody giving him bad advice? I think that's absolutely possible. That's absolutely possible. In fact, it's probably probable, no pun intended. But it also might just be a result of money, and money that was maybe not on the table a couple of months ago that's on the table now. And as a 19-year-old has a hard time declining that type of money to return back to Alabama. Maybe it's something that happened with a coach or coaches or players. But
you hit the nail on the head. It's money.
I mean, that's what we think. That's what it looks like, right? That's what it looks like.
Yeah,
right?
Look, you gotta have a little both. You gotta be a little book smart and a little street smart, Corey. It sounds like money is the issue.
Yeah.
If somebody's switching plans like that, money's involved.
Absolutely. No, I was a little bit hesitant to jump on that boat the first time around when he decommitted and went to Alabama. Because here's the deal, Frank. Until you sign on the dotted line, it's like being engaged. Like, you're not married until you're married. So he decided to leave. And if it came down to money and NIL, it came down to money and NIL. It sucks. But at the same time, it was wise on Iowa's part not to burn those bridges and allow him to come back into the fold when he was ready. But at this point, regardless of how much money was dedicated to him via Swarm or private deals, he's gone now. I ain't recruiting this kid no more. He's done. Like and he ain't coming.
That's fine. That's fair.
Iowa, anyways. That's
fair. I mean, that's just where that's the day and age that we're in. It's a crapshoot. It's a money game. It's a recruiting game. It's a lot of factors that play into it. But again, I don't know the family's background. I don't know where he comes from. But I mean, hey, if you tell a kid saying, hey, you can play for Iowa for X amount, or you can play for Alabama for a bigger X amount, Come on, it's hard to knock that, you know.
I can tell you the source that I reached out to this afternoon, again, confirmed to me that he absolutely is planning on leaving. And the source would not give me a reason, an explanation as to why. But I also don't expect, not to assume this, but I think, Frank, you said it. I also don't expect somebody in KADYN's camp to say, yeah, it's about money. They offered him more money. Like, technically, that's against the rules. You can't be doing that. But it's happening all the time. And it's a microcosm of where the sport is. I know Nick Saban has expressed frustrations. How about the irony of that, Frank? The fact that Nick Saban has been on the record the last few weeks basically dogging on the state of the game and on NIL and how you have to recruit. And his own program, who now is being led by former Washington coach Kalen DeBoer, is the program that it looks like has poached KADYN Proctor back home. Right. And yet there is no regulations. There are no regulations. And I am concerned about the direction of the sport. Not that I wasn't concerned before, but this is absolutely ridiculous. And for people who, I know there were people who were angry at me when this occurred. I don't quite get that line of reasoning. Why be angry at someone else? Like, you can be angry at KADYN Proctor, but at the same time, like, it's football, let it go. If you dedicated money to the Swarm and the Swarm's not getting this money back, and I don't have insight into that. I've not had a conversation with Brad Heinrichs since this news broke, and I don't know how much of his NIL stuff, whatever he was promised through NIL or agreed upon, was directly tied to the Swarm versus just private deals. I don't have the answer to that. But if people have given money with the expectation that KADYN Proctor was going to be playing at Iowa, that's extremely unfortunate, and that stinks. And that's part of the problem with how this is set up, because technically speaking, you cannot pay players to play. So there's nothing preventing something like this from happening, from a kid coming to campus, never playing, collecting that moolah, maybe fulfilling a couple of fundraising obligations or advertising obligations, and then heading on out. If that's what happened with KADYN Proctor, it's extremely unfortunate and is yet another demonstration of the change that needs to happen with college athletics right now. But I am disappointed in KADYN Proctor, but at the same time, I'm just I didn't even want to talk about it. Like, if I didn't do this live stream this evening, I probably wouldn't have even addressed it, because I am worn out talking about this young man who can't seem to be. I am.
I know. I know you are, Corey. I know you are.